This is how North Korea welcomed the new year, with a fireworks display, much like the rest of the world. But it is leader Kim Jong-un's New Year's Day address that is drawing all the attention. If 2017 was marked by fiery rhetoric and rising tensions because of North Korea's nuclear ambitions, 2018 may bring more of the same.
The
US mainland is within the range of our nuclear strike, and the nuclear button is put on the desk in my office at all times. They should clearly understand that this is never a threat, but a reality.
Kim has called for the mass production and deployment of more nuclear warheads and missiles. But weapons experts agree that North Korea may not yet have the technology to miniaturize a nuclear warhead and mount it on a missile that can re-enter the atmosphere. While Kim's speech made no mention of a nuclear atmospheric test, he reiterated the claim that North Korea is now a nuclear power. In stark contrast to the hostile remarks to the United States is the conciliatory overture from Kim Jong-un to South Korea. He's even suggested dialogue between the two sides, something South Korean President Moon Jae-in proposed several months ago and which North Korea ignored.
We should actively create an atmosphere to move forward with the national reconciliation and reunification. Improving ties between the North and the South is an urgent issue that not only the North and South want, but everyone else wants.
He suggested North Korea is prepared to send its athletes to participate in the upcoming Winter Olympics and Paralympics in PyeongChang next month. South Korea has responded to these proposals positively, saying it hopes communication, which has been severed between the two sides for nearly 2 years, can be restored.
South Korea's presidential office welcomes North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech today, which expressed willingness to send a delegation to the PyeongChang Olympics and proposed talks as he acknowledged the need for improvement in inter-Korean ties.
But analysts say the olive branch may be a ploy to gain some political ground.
North Korea wants to drive a wedge between Seoul and Washington, but at the same time try to dilute the impact of economic sanctions.
North Korea is facing its toughest sanctions yet, including a cap on petrol imports as punishment for its nuclear and missile tests last year. Kim Jong-un's speech, while it seems to lay open a path to dialogue with South Korea, is proof that North Korea's nuclear ambitions are here to stay.
Well, the standoff between Washington and Pyongyang is set to continue in 2018, with North Korea's leader targeting the US in his New Year's speech. Kim Jong-un stressed he had the nuclear button at hand.
The entire US mainland is within the range of our nuclear strike, and the button is always on the table in my office. They should clearly know that this is certainly not a threat, but rather a reality.
Well, to discuss this situation further, we can cross live now to Chinese international relations specialist Victor Gao. Victor, thank you very much indeed for joining us this New Year's Day. Well, what's your reaction then to Kim's nuclear button warning?
Thank you. Happy New Year. I think the remark by the leader of DPRK is highly irresponsible and is to be stopped or discouraged by all means. While DPRK has the right to defend itself, to threaten to use the nuclear weapon against another country to cover all its territory is really beyond any reasonable statement. And I hope personally that such rhetoric, either by the side of DPRK, by its supreme leader, or by the United States through its president Donald Trump, will calm down. The world does not need such jingoism or war rhetorics. The world needs peace, and we need to work with every party concerned to bring about peace on the Korean Peninsula and in that particular region.
Well, Kim says that Pyongyang's nuclear achievements, they would deter the US from ever attacking. But do you agree?
I personally do not agree. I think the DPRK has a legitimate point to defend itself and to repel any kind of invasion from outside. But to use nuclear weapon as a means to achieve this goal is really beyond reasonable calculation, especially because this is completely against all the resolutions adopted by the United Nations Security Council as well as by the IAEA. And therefore, I think DPRK should negotiate with the United States and all the other relevant parties to make sure that it can maintain stability and peace while giving up the nuclear weapons. This will be the highway. This will be the better way.
OK, and that's therefore looking at a diplomatic solution. But do you expect international pressure to grow against North Korea in the wake of these latest comments?
I think there are already a whole range of international sanctions initiated by the United Nations Security Council. They are putting pressure on DPRK, but as far as DPRK's nuclear weapon program is concerned, it's not achieving the magic result at all. And it is expected that DPRK will continue to develop and to make it more sophisticated, their nuclear weapons system. Therefore, I'm afraid that the situation on the DPRK and on the Korean Peninsula is fast reaching a tipping point. Something needs to be done. And I think before everything is exhausted, we still need to rely on peace and negotiation and diplomacy before any attempt is tried to find other ways to achieve denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula.
And Victor, very briefly, if you could just sum up, how do you see the North Korean-US relationship unfold this year in just a sentence or two? What do you think?
Now, I think DPRK is worried about threats from the United States in terms of regime change or assassination of its leader or simply invasion into its territory. And they have developed the nuclear weapon in order to achieve survival of the regime and defending their country. But by threatening to use the nuclear weapon against the United States is very irresponsible, and I think it's not to be tolerated.
Indeed, and we'll leave it there. Victor Gao, Chinese International Relations Specialist, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you.
On this, let's turn to Matthew Koenig. He's a professor at Georgetown University and senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. His book, The Logic of American Nuclear Strategy, also comes out next month. Matthew, congrats on the book. But let's talk about how credible are these threats coming from North Korea?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on. Unfortunately, these are credible threats. U.S. government estimates that North Korea has several dozen nuclear weapons and likely has the ability to deliver them to U.S. allies and bases in Asia, and is working on longer-range missiles and may already have the ability to threaten the U.S. homeland with the threat of nuclear war. So again, unfortunately, these are credible threats.
What stood out to you the most from this speech from Kim Jong-un?
Well, this is an annual tradition, North Korean leaders giving a New Year's Eve speech. What stood out most to me was Kim Jong-un actually offering a fig leaf, offering to allow sending a North Korean delegation to the Winter Olympics in South Korea. And that's notable because this is something the Moon administration in South Korea has been asking for some time. North Korea was refusing to do that, and now they're open to it. And what I take from that is that the sanctions pressure is starting to work, that North Korea and Kim Jong-un are looking for a way out of this growing international pressure.
Interesting. So you see both this speech and the offer of the Olympic delegation as proof that he is feeling pressure from the threat of sanctions.
That's what I take from it, yes. Because again, the Moon administration, when they were first elected, were looking for all types of means of communication, channels of communication with Kim Jong-un. He was very dismissive of those, said he only wanted to work directly with the United States. And so this is a pretty significant fig leaf. I was in Seoul, South Korea this fall. The South Koreans were very worried about possible North Korean attacks or provocations during the Winter Olympics. And they were saying that if they could get the North Koreans to send a delegation, that would be something of an insurance policy that North Korea wouldn't look to upset the games. And so that's now exactly what Kim Jong-un is offering to send North Koreans to the Olympics, which again reduces the likelihood that then they try to disrupt the games.
Interesting, you call it an insurance policy. It may hopefully take the temperature down on tensions during the Olympics. But what could his comments mean for U.S. relations with North Korea?
Well, the fig leaf of sending a delegation to the Olympics was paired, as you noted, with a pretty blood-curdling nuclear threat. And so I think that's another important part of Kim Jong-un's strategy. He does want to convey to the United States and to the world that he has a nuclear capability, and to use this to try to deter outside attack from South Korea or from the United States, and maybe in the future to try to use it for more offensive purposes. I think what he wants is to come to the negotiating table and get the United States and South Korea to recognize North Korea as a legitimate nuclear power. He's kind of doing a dual-track approach with us, the carrots of the Olympic offering, but also the stick and the threat of nuclear retaliation.
And fair to say that even though the president has been tweeting about Pakistan and Iran today, that North Korea will continue to be an enormous foreign policy challenge for the president going into this new year.
Yes, that's right. The United States faces many challenges around the world, but the Trump administration, H.R. McMaster, National Security Advisor in particular, have consistently argued that the North Korea nuclear challenge is the #1 foreign policy priority of the United States. And unfortunately, I think that's going to continue to be a major challenge into 2018.
Well, Matthew Koenig, thank you so much for joining us today to break this all down.
My pleasure. Thank you.